So welcome everyone to our Thursday evening class, our first one of the year. And I must say it's very particularly heartening for us that people come back not scared away by the pandemic and still joining with activities. We try to be as strict as we can with the anti-COVID measures, but really having an in-person activity is what the temple is all about. Even though we tried very hard to do things on Zoom, it's never quite the same. So we're very glad that you're here. Today I'll start with a little bit of an introduction for those who are new today. And then normally we sit for 45 minutes of meditation on a Thursday. Sometimes it's a little bit of a break after that. If not, then I just plow on with my book on Buddhism, and there'll be a chance at the end for some Q&A if anyone has any questions. So meditation, for those who are new to it, it is a way of working with a part of ourselves that we often neglect, a part that you could refer to as your mind. Although to avoid confusion with things like our brain or our nervous system, perhaps we would better refer to it as our awareness or the focus of our attention. And it's something which tends to be taken hostage by all the various distractions that we have in our daily lives. The things that we have to attend to, we have to be careful about from day to day. And because so much of our awareness is taken up with the things around us, sometimes by the end of the day, when we want to have some downtime for our mind, it's quite hard to bring our mind back to the place where it needs to be in order to rest, which is somewhere within the space of the body, or at least where we are rather than where all those other things are. And meditation offers a way to relocate the mind back from all those distractions in the outside world down to a place within ourselves. And there's a place where it's particularly effective for us to focus, which is down here at the solar plexus within the body. So you can see 7 different points there, but basically it's 2 finger breadths above the level of your belly button. But anywhere in that general location will work fine. You should pick a place that's comfortable for you. The longer your mind is able to stay in that sort of area, then the more rested, the more relaxed you'll be able to feel as a result. So meditation is a way of relocating our awareness back to that point. The way we do that in our tradition is to work by means of some sort of mental object, some sort of visualization that we conjure up in our mind. And the ideal sort of visualization would be something that is both bright and rounded. So you might like to think of a picture of the sun shining in the sky, and then translate that to an image of the sun inside your body down at that point that you can see there. If your mind wanders away from that point, the way to go with that would be to try ignoring the thoughts as much as you can. Generally, if you ignore the thoughts, then they will sort of settle down and go away by themselves, except for some exceptional people who have got so much on their mind that even ignoring the thoughts doesn't make the thoughts go away, in which case you can go to plan B, which is to use a mantra of some sort, not said out loud, please, but you hear the sound of the mantra passing through the mind over and over again until it blocks the thoughts from arising in the mind, and the thoughts will start to become less on their own until the mantra is no longer necessary. So that is the basis of the meditation we'll practice tonight. So if you'd like to make yourself comfortable now, and we'll sit in meditation for about 45 minutes. Start off with, we allow our eyes to close very gently for meditation. Careful that you have closed your eyes as lightly as possible, with your upper and lower eyelashes touching only very gently together. If you can get closing your eyes right, and the rest of the meditation will be easy. If you close your eyes gently, the muscles of your face will become soft. All the rest of the muscles in your body will become relaxed in the same way. All the way down through your shoulders, arms, hands and fingers. Continue by relaxing all the muscles in your trunk, both legs, down to your feet and your toes. This follows from closing your eyes in the correct way. Don't overlook the importance of this, even though you hear the same advice every time there's a guided meditation. So there's nothing holding you back from the attainment of inner peace within yourself. We might reflect that our time in this world is fairly limited. Our life can come to an end without any warning at any moment. We hope to achieve success in our meditation within our own lifespan. It's better to make sure we've understood the technique as well as possible. Be able to make some sort of breakthrough in our meditation in our remaining time. So that our meditation can be a refuge and leave us reassured, confident, and relaxed. Make sure that our state of mind is light and relaxed, putting aside any worries or concerns, anything superfluous to our practice. Thoughts from the past or any plans for the future. Meaning as far as possible in the present moment. With our mind on the task in hand. At the same time, we conjure up a sense of happiness and joy in the mind. If tiny particles of happiness and joy completely fill our body and mind. If a sense of happiness and joy doesn't come naturally to mind, we might cast our mind back to a time in our lives when we felt truly happy. Reconnecting with that feeling rather than the particular circumstances. Allowing that sensation to grow and spread within ourselves. Till we feel fully relaxed both in body and in mind. From there, we bring our attention gently to the center of our body. Give ourselves a feeling at the center of our body that there is a bright, clear sphere of light shining. Bright and clear as a diamond or a mirror, or like a drop of water. Like a crystal ball inside us. Keep our attention on this bright inner object as continuously as we can for as long as we can. Lightly and gently. If you need to, you can make use of the sound of the mantra. Keep your mind free of thought. Hearing the sound of the words Samma Arahant, Samma Arahant, Samma Arahant. For as long as it's useful to keep your attention on track, continuously at the center of the body. Have two things in your mind in effect. The inner object and the sound of the mantra. Two things hand in hand will keep your mind free from distraction. Because any distractions will only hinder our access to inner experience. Obstacles will weigh us down in body and mind, causing our mind to feel blocked or unwieldy, narrow, claustrophobic, or unable to enlarge. The only way to gain levity of both body and mind is to relocate our attention within the space of the body. Notice the teachings of the Buddha, where he advocated letting go of our attachments to everything, whether it be animate or inanimate objects. Let go of any grasping, because these fetters are of no benefit to us. Cause us to feel weighed down in body and in mind. They blot out the inner source of brightness. They may cause us to lead our lives unskilled. But we might remind ourselves of this teaching on non-attachment, whether we start with ourselves and work our way gradually outwards, or we start on the outside and make our way gradually inwards. We can look at our own bodies, our hair, skin, teeth, fingernails, toenails, and the way they deteriorate, in spite of our best efforts with cosmetics. It means that they are of a nature to disintegrate. It applies to our bodies, our clothes, and the jewelry we wear is of the same nature because they all have a limited lifespan. As we reflect from the inside out, our furniture, our homes all have limited lifespan. Cars we drive, our investments, land and assets are all temporary. In our neighborhood, the roads that connect them, municipality, county, country, and even the globe and universe itself are eventually going to deteriorate. We must let go of our attachment to any of these things. Putting our happiness on any of these things is of no use to us. It imprisons the mind by hitching it to things that are without ultimate meaning. Live out our whole lives without coming to an end of material attachments to worry about. Think of those things which are external to ourselves. It does weigh us down both in body and in mind. And they blot out the inner source of brightness. Impede us from attaining inner experience or an inner refuge. Which is why throughout 45 years of his teaching, the Buddha constantly returned to the teaching of non-attachment. No matter what teaching he started out with, his conclusion would always be to underline that the nature of conditioned things is impermanence, suffering, and not self. We reflect on these truths momentarily. Each time before we meditate, it only takes a minute. But all conditioned things are impermanent, even our own body, and of a nature to deteriorate, and we'll be able to let go more easily. Our mind lets go of attachment to the things outside ourselves, no matter whether they come to us via our eyes, ears, nose, taste buds, or touch, any of the five senses. And our mind will return within the space of our body and come more easily to a standstill at the center of the body. Mind comes to a standstill within, then inner illumination will arise. The opportunity for us to make the inner journey of the mind will dawn for us. Our mind will feel as if it's broken free of all forms of unwholesomeness and harm previously present in our lives. Mind will become increasingly subtle and refined. When the mind reaches the pure, it will become. It will become so pure that we can see the purity of our own mind as a crystal sphere within us. It's a purity that goes beyond a mere subjective feeling. It will allow us to access a form of inner vision known as insight. Inner sphere, that is the combination of perception, memory, thought, and cognition. Something that's more than just our imagination. A real phenomenon which increases the whole sense of well-being within ourselves. Continue to focus our mind gently at the center of our body. Let go of anything else that's not relevant to our practice. Lightly, gently, and continuously filling our mind with the inner object, whether it be something we see or something we feel, the center of ourselves. Each to our own practice for a few more moments now in silence until we come to the appropriate time. keep our mind on track at the center of the body the whole time. Lightly, gently, continuously. Always at the center of whatever we see or feel within ourselves. So we have to be careful not only of attachments to things in the outside world, or even the physical aspects of our own body and mind. We have to be careful even of attachment to progress in the meditation itself. Sometimes when our mind is becoming very still, we have nothing new to keep the mind's interest. There's a temptation to try to see something more. Often it's because of an attachment to the idea of getting results in our meditation, getting new experiences. And we justify our enthusiasm, thinking that it must lead our meditation in the correct direction. But really, this sort of enthusiasm is only really appropriate to get us to sit for meditation in the first place. While we're actually sitting for meditation, we really just need to let the mind be. We need to stop grasping after any possibility of results or progress that we anticipate. Because we know from the Four Noble Truths that grasping is the root of suffering. Even if it's grasping after something wholesome like enlightenment. Unfortunately, it's mixed up with a sense of delusion or incomplete knowledge. Which ends up meaning that we have no new inner experience to show for our meditation. Because we have grasping mixed up with our meditation efforts, sometimes by stealth, so that we don't realize we're doing it. Everyone wants to make a breakthrough in their meditation, but sometimes we can go about it in the wrong way. But we have to stop by just letting the mind be. Even if there's nothing new for us to see, we must observe without interfering. Doesn't mean we're getting no benefit from the meditation. Because every time we meditate, we collect up happiness little by little. The mind will gradually be purified and clarified. Our ability to meditate will gradually accumulate, just like termites bringing grains of sand until they build a huge termite mound, or like watering a tree at its roots. The tree grows a little each day. We're never able to tell just how many inches it's grown in a day. But after some time, it starts to bear fruit. Meditation is similar. All we need to do is close our eyes, relax our body, bring our mind softly to a standstill inside, without worrying about the results the meditation will yield. You shouldn't be discontented with yourself, thinking that inside ought to be brighter than it seems to be. We should just observe without interfering until the mind reaches a point of equilibrium, whereby it can be attracted towards enlightenment. Later, when we become more adept in recognizing and guiding our states of mind, we can bring the mind to that equilibrium intentionally. At this stage in our meditation, we've not yet reached that point. We need to adjust our approach. Doesn't mean we're never going to reach the point of mastery, but for now, we need to remain mindful of all the advice we've heard on approaching our meditation. Otherwise, when we get to the good bits in our meditation, all the advice goes out of the window and we can't stop ourselves applying the wrong sort of effort. If in doubt, we just reset our efforts, make a new start, pretend we are new to meditation like a child or using our beginner's mind. Meantime, we don't deny or resist whatever inner experiences arise in the meditation. We should just be content with whatever arises, being friendly to whatever comes up, even if it's darkness or even if it's nothing new. For as long as we enjoy our experience of meditation, our inner experiences will sort themselves out. Be a majestic transformation inside that no money can buy. Transformation that is beyond compare. Experience that comes together with subtle joy and happiness, which inspires us to extend compassion towards all living beings without exception. Train the mind to rest at a standstill in brightness and clarity at the center of ourselves. Whatever there is to observe on the inside, be it darkness, light, images or otherwise, we observe without interfering, continuously, without entertaining any thoughts in the mind. Meditator, it's not our job to analyze what we see or to run a mental commentary. Train ourselves in this way, both when meditating or even as we get up to do other things in our lives, whether standing, walking, sitting, or lying down, whether eating, speaking, or exercising, until having our mind at the center becomes second nature. You have all the knowledge we need to succeed in meditation. Your inner experience awaits you within. It's not a question of whether the breakthrough will come for us. It's just a matter of time and consistency in our practice. Adapt our practice to continue alongside whatever life may throw at us. Like a point of stillness in the eye of the storm, or an oasis in the desert, attracting abundance into our lives on all possible levels. Continue to train our mind, train our attention lightly, gently, and continuously at the center of ourselves for a few more moments now in silence until we come to the time for our loving kindness meditation. our awareness at the center of the body the whole of the time? Or is it the center of whatever inner experience we've built up for ourselves? Result of the meditation so far this evening. There's a sort of a brightness inside, maybe like diamond brightness sparkling at the center of yourself. Allow that brightness to expand outwards. It's more of a feeling of well-being, touching your awareness very gently at the center of that feeling. It will spread slowly outwards. For others, there may be some sort of imagery inside. Place your mind gently at the center of the imagery. It will also become larger in size, expanding outwards. Expanding outwards by a process known as the spreading of loving kindness. At this point, we share our loving kindness with all sentient beings around us. Share by extending that loving kindness outwards from the center of ourselves, initially to the whole of our own body, wishing ourselves to be well and happy, free from suffering, with the full force of forgiveness for ourselves. Extend the loving kindness to all those around us. Extend that loving kindness outwards, beyond the peripheries of our own body, to the environment around us. Taking in all the sentient beings in our midst, room in which we are sitting for meditation, further outwards to the whole building, neighborhood, as far outwards as we can extend our loving kindness. As meditators, we are like the sentinels of peace for the world. We're able to conjure up peace in the form of brightness or well-being within ourselves. Even a single meditator can bring wholesomeness and peace to the whole of our planet. Many meditators, you can imagine just how much more bright and beautiful our world could become if everyone in the world was able to reconnect with that inner light. So we extend the brightness or the well-being or the inner peace outwards, building the neighborhood almost like an aura or a halo. And we're extending around us, taking in all the living beings therein, extending that inner peace to all of them, outwards to the whole city, county, whole country, all of the continent, to all the continents of the world. Feel our loving kindness extends across the whole of the face of this planet, with a sense of compassion and forgiveness for all, no matter who or what they may be, until the extent of our loving kindness feels infinite, grows and expands wider across the face of our planet. We wish that everyone on earth would one day reconnect with inner light, remaining mindful of the precious nature all would have to also learn about the inner light of peace for their own benefit. Continue to maintain the sense of loving kindness radiating outwards from our center, and the bright diamond sparkle at the center of that. For a few more moments in silence until we come to the appropriate time. E Buddha Palapata Pache Kananchayam Pala Arahantananchate Jena Prakam Bandam Itsapaso Sapa Buddha Nupavena Sapa Dhamma Nupavena Sapa Sangha Nupavena Satha Soti One Two If you'd like to come to the end of your meditation for this evening, you can gradually open your eyes again. If you feel at all uncomfortable, then slowly try changing to a more comfortable position before gradually finishing your practice. So far, so good, everyone. Not too difficult for those who were new. Okay. Did you have something you could focus on when you closed your eyes? Did it stay with you? Did it came back? So that's the spirit. Yes. You have something to work with. It might be something you see, maybe something you feel, but as long as you have something, then it gives you some hope that you'll be able to work on that to master it in the future. So do you want a break at all? I think Thursday, Lord, get a 10-minute break. So until 8:05. Yes, fun. Yeah. Comfort break. I want some water that's available. So did you miss us over the new year? Oh, well, we tried to come back despite naysayers who wanted to protect you all from COVID. Yes, we did promise to come back in mid-January, so we tried to keep our word on that one. And we have a few new monks in our stable as well, so you might get some different faces either on the Thursday or the Tuesday nights. But for myself, I will continue to plow through the series on the Mangala Sutta, or the 38 Blessings of Life or Enlightened Living. And before New Year, we worked our way up to blessing number 5, which was to do with having collected up a lot of merits in our past. You remember that far back? And where we are in the bigger scheme of things with 38 blessings is that we are working on turning towards wholesomeness in our lives. And in this respect, there are 3 components. The components that we've already talked about are living in an amenable location, which means being in a place where there's an availability of people of wisdom and a generally encouraging atmosphere to get you to work on yourself, to improve yourself in life. Last time we looked at the good things that we have built up in our karmic repertoire in the past, something that would give us the energy to propel us forwards on the pathway of wholesomeness. The third and final part of this equation for turning towards wholesomeness is having basically a plan or a direction for where you're going in life. You've got the energy, you've got the good location, but now you have to point yourself in the right direction in life in order to get to a better place. So blessing 6, the first half of which I'll talk about today, is to do with setting oneself up properly in life. And I will apologize in advance for any of you who are familiar with my meditation for beginners course, that there is a part of this which I've already talked about a little bit, about aim in life, purpose in life. But I will elaborate on what I've already said with a few more scriptural stories and some elaboration on what are known as the dangers of prevarication. So turning towards virtue, we have already talked about blessing 4, which is to do with basically the nurture aspects of our development, and blessing number 5, which is to do with our nature, or what we bring to the table in terms of our self-development. And before we get to the point of the next rung of the ladder in the blessing, which is to do with making ourselves useful, then we need to have some sort of direction in life. So let's look at some of the objectives of blessing. So it's to help extricate ourselves from unwholesomeness, to become inspired to stand on our own 2 feet financially, provide prevarication about accruing wholesomeness in life, and also to have the ability to set priorities and overcome obstacles concerning our aim in life, so that we can become a refuge. Sometimes you hear about having a refuge if you are a student of Buddhism, but this is a really basic aspect. Is basically being able to stand on your own 2 feet in the world. Nothing to do with a spiritual refuge, just not having to fall back on other people, to be able to have that sense of dignity in life. So it's not all about transcendental objectives, it's sometimes down to some quite basic aspects of life. Because many people go through life without much of a plan at all. In fact, some people go through life fairly clueless, except for a few pointers in the right direction from their career advisor in secondary school, probably. the life generally is not easy to understand, and most people sleepwalk through life almost. So some people feel that life is passing them by at an alarming pace. Start out as a baby, we go to primary school and then secondary school, and some people go further to college and try to get themselves a degree in something. And the expectation is that they have a degree and then they'll get a nice job, and with a nice income they can get a nice partner. Before long they can have their own family, and then they will find themselves getting older, and then the doctor starts to visit more frequently, and then they get buried under the ground. And if they're really lucky, then someone will actually remember them long enough to actually come and put flowers on their grave. So without intending to be overly morbid, such a whistle-stop overview of life forces us to consider whether there should perhaps be more to life than this. Otherwise, it would be rather tragic. And if we're not careful, we can find that instead of us living our lives, then we find that life is living us. And the blink of an eye, we find that the days are getting shorter and we're getting shorter of breath. And we find that we haven't really managed to do all the things that we considered to be the really important things in our life, if we're not at all careful. Each day is made up of 24 hours, but how much of the time, 24 hours, do we spend asleep? 5 hours, 6 hours, some people as much as 10 hours a day. On average is about 8 hours. Yeah? Or you don't sleep. You do sleep? Okay. So already that's 1/3 of your life gone just with sleeping. It's quite scary, really. A big chunk out of your life already. And then they send you off to work. So if you're lucky, you get an 8-hour a day, 40-day week. Some people do overtime as well, so that's maybe more. But even without the overtime, with the sleeping and the working, then that's already 16 hours of your 24 hours gone. And you haven't even started, presumably, to do the things which you find important for your relaxation or for your general edification or spiritual aspect of your life. So you've got 8 hours left of your day. So what do you spend your time doing? Watching Netflix or chatting, washing up, eating, cooking. Before you know it, the whole of your 24 hours is completely gone. And you still didn't do the things which are you considered of great value to you. So if you're lucky enough to live for 60 years, according to a recent survey, you will have spent 29 years doing your online life. You will have spent 25 hours asleep. You will have spent 17 years trying to lose weight. You will have spent 4.8 years with your friends and family, 2.5 years cooking, a whole year picking out outfits, 5 months grumbling, and only 115 days laughing about things. So this is why you can see that your assumption that life is long is not really that accurate. And we do need to organize our time properly in order to find the time or even make the time in order to develop the quality of our minds. Especially for things like meditation, we find that we really need to carve out space in our schedule in order to allow for our self-transformation for the better. Otherwise, old age can creep up on us, leaving us with aches and pains and fatigue and shortness of breath, and no opportunity or energy to devote ourselves to spiritual work anymore. So what can you do if you want to achieve more from life, but you never seem to have the time? One way is to add clarity to your priorities and aims in life, which is what we're really talking about with the blessing number 6 today. Sometimes we get interruptions coming in, But some of those interruptions are unavoidable, but other ones we give up on our more important aspects of our life a little bit too easily. But if we have a clear perspective on what we really value, then we would manage to relegate those disruptions to where they deserve to be, so that we can use the time more effectively. So what we really need is a clear perspective of where we're going in our life. And one important aspect of this, which is derived from Buddhist wisdom, is known as 3 levels of aim in life. And this is not to say it's a choice of 3 things and you can work out which one you want to put into practice. But what I'm going to propose to you is that everyone's life needs to have all 3 of these components. But exactly what percentage of each, then that would be down to the individual person. So let's see if we can describe these. The worldly, the most basic aim in these 3 is to do with providing for our basic needs in life. Whether it be food on the table, clothes on our backs, roof over our head, or medicine, medical care that keeps us healthy. If any of these are lacking, then we would be in jeopardy. Said that you can survive 3 minutes without breathable air, 3 hours in an extreme environment, 3 days without drinkable water, and 3 weeks without food. So it's only natural that people should aim to be self-sufficient in at least their basic physical needs. And this is really what is the worldly aim in life is about. If your aim is any lower than that, then you end up either not surviving or becoming a burden on someone else. And of course, some people are not satisfied with just surviving. Some people want to be millionaires. Some people want creature comforts. Some people want to retire by the time they're 40. But no matter how much or little you want, whether it's just to fulfill your needs or whether you want to provide for your wants in life, this aim in life, although it's quite short-sighted, it is necessary even for monks who are supposed to have turned their back on things. You do need to survive on a worldly level. So in the short term, you are looking at quite immediate rewards: eat, drink, and be merry. But in the end, you do need to have a plan for it. Otherwise, it can obscure any other aims in life which you might want to develop on top of that. So without doing down Western materialism completely, I would advise any budding materialists who want to set themselves up properly in life should at least make sure that they earn a living in a way that doesn't deviate from what's known as right livelihood. You heard of that? Right livelihood? So not being unscrupulous in the way that you earn your living. Money may be money, but if it comes to you in an unscrupulous way, then it has a burden which will sully your life in other ways. And apart from conforming with right livelihood, you also need to avoid getting mixed up in these 6 things, which are called roads to ruin, because they will drain your resources. Even if you started out rich, but any of these things would tend to put a major hole in your wallet. So what we are looking for, and this is the Buddhist version of it, sometimes referred to as the chambers of a millionaire's heart, because it leads to wealth in the present lifetime or benefit in the present lifetime. Didn't believe that Buddhists had that. Maybe you do now. There are 4 aspects, which are: you need to be diligent in acquiring wealth, not just lie about in bed all day. Secondly, you need to be able to look after, conserve what you have earned, so that it doesn't get frittered away in ways that you didn't intend. Third one is that you need to keep tabs on the sort of friends you associate with. Otherwise, your friends, so-called, may be the reason that all your hard-earned disappears on things that you didn't plan for. And last but not least, living within one's means. And the 4 letters there inside what's known as a yantra are the Pali words for those 4 qualities which one needs to cultivate in order to get benefit in the present lifetime. As we said, it's not saying that being wealthy is bad, but if you're wealthy, you should be wealthy in an honest way. And hopefully you should look beyond that wealth to see that it's not the total aim in life, but there is something beyond that, which Buddhists would refer to as profit or benefit in the hereafter, which is not about cultivating money or abundance in material ways, but abundance on the level of the character or virtues which will stay with one beyond the grave, according to Buddhist beliefs. So far, good? So what do we have there? Well, just now we had the U-A-K or Ka-Sa, and you can see that we've now enveloped that in a second layer, which is what is known as profit for the hereafter, which are 4 character qualities that we hope to build on top of the fact that we can stand on our own 2 feet financially, which are faithfulness, self-sacrifice, self-discipline, and wisdom. 4 character qualities which we might need to set aside time for to cultivate in our lives so that they will stay with us beyond the grave. Unfortunately, some people don't manage to spend very much time on these things because it's not easy. Sometimes we leave that cultivation of spirituality until too late in life. Sometimes we delay becoming financially independent, so we have no free time in order to cultivate these things. Sometimes we get mired in debt. Sometimes we have bad habits that sort of pull us back into that line of life instead. And sometimes we don't understand the difference between good and bad deeds clearly enough not to end up mixing the two. But if we are sensible, then we would budget our time in order to earn our living, but have time left over to cultivate the spiritual aspects of our character or personality on top of that. For most religions, that would be good enough. But within Buddhism, it's rather a special religion in that we don't just expect to keep on coming back in better and better forms, but we would like to break free of the whole cycle of existence completely. In other words, to become unbound from this whole cycle of existence, to break free, in other words. And in order to do that, then there are some special things on this 3rd level of aim in life which we would aim for. Usually they are the domain of monks or nuns, but in the present day and age, even lay people sometimes can take a section out of their lives or a particular period out of their lives in which to train themselves to get some of those monk or nun-like qualities for themselves, even though they are not following that as their career choice. And the way to do that is often to join something like a meditation retreat where you're living in a slightly more, let's say, strict environment and a more intense time to meditate for oneself, to get some of the flavor of that breaking free from the aspects that are holding you back in life. Sometimes to be able to do that, you need to make some sacrifices financially in order to do that, because the convenience and the comfort of being in your nice home where you've chosen everything is you have to sometimes put that to one side in order to have more opportunity to train yourself on a spiritual level. But some people choose to do this and plan for it in their life objectives or aims in order to be able to fit in this transcendental aim in life on top of the spiritual and material ones that I have already talked about. Brotherhood, I'll tell you a little story to finish off with today, and it is a sort of fishy story. And it's a story to illustrate how if a person comes across certain influences in life, sometimes they get the clarity to really change the direction of their life for the better in quite a definitive way. So the story goes like this. You are aware that there's not been one Buddha, but many Buddhas going back into the past. I see a few nods. Previous Buddha was not called Gautama, he was called Kassapa. And during his time, there was a gang of robbers, 500 of them, who were running amok in a kingdom in ancient India. And a whole posse of householders got together with the king's army, and they chased the robbers deeper and deeper into the forest, until eventually the band of robbers, who probably were fairly unsavory characters, came face to face with a monk of very peaceful countenance who lived in a forest clearing. And seeing the monk and the very obvious contrast between themselves and what the monk was doing with his life, they started to realize the error of their ways. And they also realized that they were at death's door because all the posse were sort of catching up with them and heavily armed. So they were somehow suddenly very receptive to what the monk had to say. And the monk taught them that they needed to keep the precepts as if, even if they had to put their life on the line in order to do so. Since if they were captured, then no one would spare their lives. So the thieves took the 5 precepts from that monk, and when the captors caught up with them, they didn't put up any resistance. They concentrated all their attention on keeping their precepts pure, which meant that they would not hurt a mosquito, let alone any armed soldiers who were chasing them. Before long, when the soldiers caught up on them, the robbers kept their word and they put up no resistance, and they all ended up being executed there and then. But through the power of keeping the precepts to the degree that they would lay down their lives, their bad deeds of robbing, murdering, and whatever else robbers did in those days didn't have the chance to catch up with them, but they were reborn in a heaven realm. Is heaven permanent in Buddhism? No. So they got to be in heaven for a while. But in this case, not for very long, because bad karma is sort of catching up on them. So after a rather short period in heaven, the 500 return back to the human realm again. So this is 2 lifetimes on. And because they had karma of doing unsavory things, robbing and stealing and murdering in that lifetime before, they took rebirth in not a very lofty or well-considered echelon of society, which was fishermen, who every day had to go out and slaughter fish for their living. And they all lived in the same village. So the 500 all got reborn because they all had similar karma in the same place, in the same village. And although they had to fish every day through the power of the good deeds in their past, so from having kept the precepts basically at the last moment of their lives, they still had faith in Buddhism. So even as fishermen, they continued. One day they went out to catch fish, and they caught this beautiful, giant, gold-colored fish. as big as a boat. And no one had ever seen a fish like that in their lives. And when they captured it, it was still alive. So they took it to present to the king of that kingdom, who was King Pathanati of Kosala. And he was so mystified by this huge and beautiful fish that he took it to show the Buddha, so present Buddha, Buddha Gautama. And the most mysterious aspect of this fish was that when the fish opened its mouth, it had a terrible smell on its breath. So the king wanted to know why such a beautiful fish would have such foul-smelling breath. And the Buddha revealed the story of the fish's past. So this is not to do with the robbers anymore, it's to do with the fish. And he had once been a very learned monk called Kapila in the time of that Buddha before Kassapa Buddha. And he had been a monk who would be able to memorize all the scriptures, but he was only any good on the sort of academic side, on the sort of theoretical side. He didn't practice, and he was so intoxicated with his learning that he disagreed with everybody, whether they were right or wrong. And even though others warned him about his attitude, he didn't listen to them anymore. And one day when he was reciting the Patimokkha, which is the monk's discipline, all the other monks are supposed to just listen. But when the other monks tried to teach him a lesson by not responding at the time they should during the ceremony for recitation of this monk's discipline, he got angry with them and he had an outburst, at which time he said, "Oh, the Buddhist scriptures, they don't amount to anything. And it makes no difference whether you listen to them or not." And he turned his back on them because he had misrepresented the teachings as a result of this. Then he developed false view. So his whole outlook on the world became very negative and distorted. And these false views dragged him down into rebirth in the unfortunate realms, which is not good for a monk. Normally you would expect much better of a monk, you know, even a bunch of robbers, you make it to heaven, and he ends up in a much worse place. And eventually when he came back to the sort of human realm again, it wasn't as a human, but it was as a fish. And the good karma of having been a monk for so long led to his beautiful appearance, golden appearance of a fish. But the fact that he had misrepresented the teachings during the time he was a monk led him to have a mouth with bad breath. So when the 500, so 500 fishermen now heard all about the backstory for this fish, they realized that compared to what the fish had done, they must have done much worse. Because what they'd done is catch fish since they were young. And their retribution would certainly be no less than the fate of the fish which they had caught. So they decided at that point that in order to rectify their whole direction in life, it would be better for them to change their career plan and become monks instead, and devote themselves to practicing meditation for the rest of their lives. So in conclusion, the power of having laid down their lives, as it were, to keep the precepts in a previous existence, help them to change direction completely in life during that lifetime. And it meant that before long, during this lifetime, when again they've made the decision to change from being fishermen, honest fishermen, to being monks, again, change in plan, change in purpose in life, change in aim in life to a whole new level. Before long, they could all become arahants, and they were no longer subject to the retribution of any unwholesomeness in their past. So that is the story of Kapila, who we were born as a fish. And these got a few announcements. Some of you are regulars here. You know all about the in-person classes that have now started up again for this year. But apart from this Thursday evening, which has 45 minutes meditation, half an hour of a Buddhist talk, there's also a Tuesday night, which is like a shorter meditation, probably more of a wisdom talk. Apart from these regular in-person classes, we also have ordination programs. We are hoping that COVID will go away by summer. It's probably not too much of a long shot to hope for, but do this anyway. But any gentlemen are interested to join our European monk ordination program. There's a program for a month during June, and generally we hold it in the Belgian center. It says there 1 month, but really it involves really only 2 weeks of training, which is 1 week training to become a monk, and then after ordination, like a further week of training. So it's like a 2-week retreat becoming a monk. And if you want to stay on for the whole month, you can, but generally you are sent back to your home temple in order to complete the month. But if you don't want to stay on, that's also okay, but generally we like people to aim for a month. From that, we have a meditation retreat ourselves here in the working center, this time between 18th and 20th of March, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, for anyone who'd like to learn how to keep 8 precepts and to meditate for 4 sessions a day instead of just the once a week, which you've probably been used to up until now. But yes, you can sign up for that on the temple website, I hope. Even if it still says the old retreat date, you can still sign up on that, and the information will reach our organizers. Apart from this, online we have every Saturday what's known as DMEU, or the Dhammakaya Meditation EU, which is between 7 and 8 here in Britain. You can have a meditation and a Dhamma teaching from English-speaking monks there from the comfort of your home. It's nice because you see other meditators from all around Europe as well. Apart from that, next Tuesday here we have what's known as the full moon meditation for January, which is themed the power of hope for a brighter tomorrow. So apart from our normal meditation and giving a teaching, we would light candles for the full moon day on that day as well. So if you would like to join that, or some people bring along their family members as well, because it's a little bit more active than just sort of sitting and listening to a talk or meditating, then you're welcome to do that. It will be next Tuesday here, and it'll also be online as well. For those of you who would like to cultivate meditation in your daily lives, I would like to recommend what's known as the MindGem app, which you can download for free onto your mobile phone, whether it be Android or iOS, in order to listen to audio tracks of leading meditation, or just talks about meditation in general from monks speaking English in our tradition. So I would encourage you to do that. If you'd like to meditate at home, you can listen to tracks on MindGem even when you are offline, which is quite convenient, and it has a timer built into it whereby you can set a half an hour meditation, listen to 20 minutes of guidance, and then sit for the rest of the time in silence, and it will have a signal, a soothing signal at the end to bring you out of your meditation. So for today, I think I will finish off there, and there is the opportunity for questions, feedback, or comments if anyone would like to speak up at this time. If not, then probably we will finish off with bowing.
Okay, thank you very much everybody for attending this evening. I hope it brought some stillness to our busy lives, a moment of stillness, and also some takeaways for developing a more wholesome character. So thank you very much for the time talk this evening. Lovely. And so now if I can ask you to pay our respects as usual, and we'll begin by paying respect to our teaching monk and leaders by bowing 3 times. Bow. Bow.
All of you be blessed with clarity and direction on all 3 levels of aim in life, in this lifetime and forever.
If I could ask you to pay your respects to Lord Buddha by bowing 3 times. Bow. Bow. Bow.
There's usually a little chore to